It's a horror-themed episode of Star Trek! Yay! But it turns out the monster is just misunderstood. Boo! The monster kills a bunch of people. Yay! But the moral of the story is about the importance of tolerance and cooperation based on mutual respect. Boo! This is a review of the Star Trek The Original Series episode, The Devil in the Dark. If you have not seen this episode and you don't want to know what evil monster has been killing all those innocent miners, be warned, spoilers beyond this point. Let's go back to the good old days of classic Star Trek when, apparently, according to some present-day Trekkies, the show had absolutely nothing to say about any social issue that was relevant at that time. We open on a mining colony where the new shift is coming on duty and everyone is nervously talking about something that's been killing the miners. It's killed 50 people, apparently. The guy who's set to take over guard duty, Schmitter, is particularly apprehensive. His boss, Chief Vanderberg, is like, sorry man, but we've got to leave somebody down here to get killed on camera to establish the threat for the audience. I mean, they just got here. Schmitter is like, the Enterprise is on its way, right? Vanderberg says, yeah, but they'll get here way too late to help you. Anyway, hey, have a good shift. And everybody except Schmitter walks off. As soon as they're gone, something, we don't see what it is, rises up out of the shadows and kills Schmitter. Vanderberg and the others hear Schmitter's screams and come running back, but there's nothing they can do. Vanderberg comments that Schmitter has been burned to a crisp, just like the others. The Enterprise arrives, and from Kirk's captain's log, we learn that this planet is Janus 6, home to a long-established mining colony that provides the essential mineral pergium. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy beam down to meet with Vanderberg, who fills them in on what's been happening. They recently reached a new level in their mining operations, a depth which contains not only pergium, but many other valuable minerals. The problem is, shortly after that, their machinery started failing. It was being destroyed by some corrosive chemical. Then people began to die, attacked by something that burns them to almost nothing. A few of the men have caught a glimpse of the creature. It's a big, shaggy thing. They've even shot it with phasers, but weren't able to hurt it. This douche, Appel, steps up to Kirk like, big man with his big spaceship. Well, you can't get your spaceship down into the mining tunnels, can ya? Kirk's like, I'm here to help you. Why are you being such a hard-on? Spock notices a sphere on Vanderberg's desk and asks what it is. Vanderberg says, oh, that's a silicon nodule. We found them all over the place in that lower level we just opened up. But that's nothing. It's of no relevance to anything, especially the plot. Put that down. McCoy examines what was left of Schmitter and concludes that he wasn't burned, he was dissolved by an incredibly corrosive chemical. Spock looks over a map of the mining tunnels, charts the positions and times of the creature attacks, and concludes that this creature must be incredibly fast. Meanwhile, the creature kills another guy and melts its way through a door into a room the guy was guarding. Our heroes rush over and find the remains of the guy, and also that the creature has sabotaged the colony's main reactor, stealing a pump the device needs to operate. If the pump isn't returned soon, the colony will have to be evacuated. Kirk calls Scotty down to rig a temporary replacement for the pump to buy them some time. The theft of the reactor pump seems a little too specific for Spock. He has a theory. This creature is a silicon-based form of life. That's what makes it too difficult for them to detect until it's right on top of its next victim, and that could explain how it's able to move so freely through the solid rock beneath the planet. McCoy is skeptical. Silicon-based life has never been observed before, but Spock's theory is good enough for Kirk to order down a security detail from the Enterprise, equipped with phasers adjusted so they can damage the creature. Kirk lines up the security detail and gives them their orders. 50 people have already died, and since you're all nameless security goons, you'll probably be killed as well, but that's a price I'm willing to pay. Find and kill this new life form at any cost so that this colony can resume its industrial operations. That's the Starfleet way. It's not very long before the first red shirt bites it. Kirk and Spock are nearby, and they rush to the scene upon hearing his dying scream. The creature who attacked him is still nearby, crawling out of a tunnel it just cut through the solid rock wall. It's like a big cheese pizza that was left in the oven a bit too long, and Kirk and Spock both fire their phasers. The creature retreats into its tunnel. Spock observes that the tunnel, which goes back into the rock as far as they can see, was just cut a few minutes ago. The sides of the tunnel are still hot. The security chief, Commander Giotto, arrives with another security goon. He asks Kirk if he's all right, and Kirk tells him about how they just saw the creature and shot and injured it. Nobody mentions the security guy who was just melted down to a stain a few minutes ago. Their phasers carved a hunk off of the creature. Spock examines it and confirms that the creature is a silicon-based life form. Spock adjusts his tricorder to be able to detect the creature and notices that he's only detecting one life form, a single creature of this kind, which means if they kill it, they could be wiping out an entire species. Kirk's like, don't you even start. We're killing it, dude. Okay, we're killing it. It killed a bunch of us, now we're going to kill it back. It's just like they taught us at the Academy. Retributive killing is the only sure path to peace. Kirk dispatches another security team to find and kill the creature. Before they go, Spock's like, or maybe you can capture it? Kirk's like, kill, 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 boys, and orders them to get to work. When everyone else is gone, Kirk's like, what's this capture it bullshit? I thought we agreed this thing has to die. Spock says, yeah, I reluctantly agreed. I'd still prefer to take it alive. Kirk's like, if you can't handle my order to kill this creature on sight, to shoot first, and ask no questions ever, to remove this unique life form from the universe forever, then I'll put you to work helping Scotty repair that circulating pump. Spock's like, oh god, anything but that. I'll be good. I'll kill, just like you said. Scotty announces that his efforts to compensate for the missing circulator pump have failed and the colony will need to be evacuated within the next 10 hours if they can't find the pump. So the clock is ticking. Enterprise security teams plus some of the miners form search parties to find the creature. Kirk and Spock go looking for it too, with Spock tracking it using his tricorder. Spock finds an area where the creature has been recently. There are 2 tunnels, so they each take one. At the end of Kirk's tunnel, he finds a chamber with a bunch of those silicon spheres like the one in Vanderberg's office. Part of the ceiling collapses, leaving Kirk with only one way out of the chamber and Spock with only one way to get to where Kirk is. While Spock makes his way to Kirk, the creature emerges from the wall. Kirk holds the creature at bay with his phaser and calls Spock. Spock's like, it's right there with you, right now? Kill it! Kill it! Kill that motherfucker dead! Kirk's like, whoa, shit, weren't you the guy who didn't want to kill it? Spock's like, yeah, but I don't know what I would do if anything happened to you. The creature doesn't seem eager to attack Kirk. It waits, with Kirk holding his phaser on it, until Spock arrives. The wound where they shot the creature with their phasers before is clearly visible on its body. Spock says, okay, so I'm definitely going to mind meld with it. He first tries a no-touching meld, just walks up to it and sort of concentrates, and pain! Pain! He walks back over to Kirk and says, I think it's in pain. The creature crawls over a rock and burns something into the surface. When it moves away, Kirk and Spock see that it has written the words, no kill eye. Spock speculates that when they touched minds just now, the creature gained an understanding of them and is now able to communicate. Also, Spock picked up a few things about it. It's a very intelligent and sophisticated creature. It calls itself a Horta. Kirk calls McCoy and tells him to get to their location. There's a patient that needs mending. Spock's like, nice idea, but Dr. McCoy is trained to administer medicine to life as we know it. His skills will be useless against this newly discovered silicon-based form of life. Kirk's like, he's a doctor. Doctors can heal anybody. That's how that works. While they wait for McCoy to show up, Spock does another mind meld with the Horta, laying hands on it this time, in an attempt to earn its trust and convince it to give back the reactor pump it took. Spock is overcome with powerful emotions from the Horta and begins mournfully moaning about murder and the end of eternity and monsters and killers who must be stopped, happy stuff like that. McCoy arrives and Kirk points at the Horta and says, fix it. McCoy's like, it's mostly made out of rock. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. Oh, and what's wrong with laying brick? Nothing's wrong with laying brick. My father laid brick. That's somebody's home you're building. There's an honor in that. Of course there is, Captain. And that's why you want me to heal that creature. For the honor of it. Are we done with this bit? Yeah, I'll go see what I can do for the pizza monster. Eventually, Spock gets through to the Horta and tells Kirk to go look for the circulator pump in a nearby chamber. Kirk does, and finds the chamber full of more of those silicon spheres, only these have all been broken. Kirk returns to the others with the pump and a fragment of one of the spheres. He gets it now. He says to Spock, "These silicon nodules, they're the Horta's eggs, aren't they?" Spock's like, "Yes. The miners began destroying them when their operations reached this level. Thousands and thousands of the Horta's potential offspring were killed. No wonder she was a little cross with us. A bunch of the miners, led by Vanderberg and that asshole Appel, fight their way past Giotto's security detail and arrive at Kirk and Spock's location, ready to kill the Horta. Kirk says, "The first one of you that makes a move against that creature is fucking dead. I've chosen my side, and it's Team Pizza Monster." The miners are confused, so Spock explains. The silica nodules are the Horta's eggs. This species has lived on this planet for many generations. Every so often, when it's time for a new generation to be born, the entire adult population dies except for one Horta who cares for the eggs and nurtures the young after they hatch. Kirk adds that the Horta is not a naturally violent creature. The species is peaceful and intelligent, and this Horta was perfectly fine sharing the planet with the miners until they started destroying the eggs. At that point, some killing needed doing. But Kirk has a possible solution to everyone's problems. The Horta are natural tunnelers. They move through rock with incredible speed and ease and leave tunnels behind as they go. That should make the job of the miners so much easier. If there can be a truce where the miners agree not to harm the Horta from now on, the two sides could coexist in peace and the mine would be more productive than ever. Vanderberg is like, "Yeah, okay. The only possible problem, the Horta is still badly injured from their phaser shot and may die." "Nah, fuck that," says McCoy, standing up from the Horta, his hands covered in wet cement. "I fixed it. I cured it. I guess I am a bricklayer after all. A bricklayer with a godlike power over life and death." McCoy explains that since the Horta is mostly made of silicon, he just had the Enterprise beam him down some silicon-based cement, and he troweled it into the Horta's wound so it will act as a bandage and allow it to heal. Kirk's like, "Did you say troweled? If you used a trowel, how come it's all over your fucking hands? You call yourself a bricklayer. You think your father'd be proud of you?" Anyway, Spock relays Kirk's proposal to the Horta, and everything works out. Yay! The Horta eggs start to hatch, the babies tunnel their little hearts, or whatever they have, out, and the miners come in behind them and collect the minerals. Vanderberg calls Kirk one last time to give him an update before the Enterprise departs, and he says, the Horta aren't so bad once you get used to their appearance. After Vanderberg hangs up, Spock says, "That's funny. The Horta said the same thing about humans. She finds the humanoid appearance revolting, but she thinks she can get used to it. She did say she dug my ears, though, which isn't surprising given that the Horta are creatures of high intelligence and impeccable taste." And so the Enterprise left Janus 6, everyone having learned the important lesson that racial tolerance and environmental responsibility are perfectly compatible with capitalist industrialization. The end! This is not a perfect episode, but you can make a case that it is the perfect episode of Star Trek. It has everything we expect from the show, and I am talking about this specific series, the original series, not the franchise as a whole. If you took all of Star Trek, the original series, and averaged it out to make one episode that represented the entire series, you might get something like The Devil in the Dark, a deeply goofy episode that is simultaneously earnest and humane with a serious message that, judging by the entirety of human history, we can always stand to be reminded of. That message is delivered with an intelligence and sensitivity which rivals that of the Horta itself. When the episode begins, the setup is straight out of a horror movie. A remote planet, a subterranean mining operation, an unseen creature that attacks without warning and dissolves people down to nothing but a dark spot on the floor in a matter of seconds. We see multiple attacks from the point of view of the creature. The camera pushes in, the shadow of the creature rises up to fill the frame as the victims scream in terror. It's basic horror movie shit, but it's very effective, and it creates within us an expectation for what this creature is and what this episode is going to be. Then, once Kirk, Spock, and McCoy arrive and begin their investigation, things begin to take a turn. The creature still attacks and kills. It's still a dire threat to our heroes, as well as the miners who live and work on this planet. But Spock's preoccupation with that silicon sphere suggests that there might be something else going on. When Spock confirms that there is only one of these creatures and expresses his reluctance to kill it because to do so might wipe out an entire species, we begin to see the bend in the road up ahead. Then we get that scene with Kirk and Spock and the Horta in the cavern, and our actual destination becomes clear. The episode misleads the audience to fear the Horta so that we can take the same journey as the characters and move from fear to understanding. The Horta seems at first to be an utterly irredeemable creature, a fiend, a monster that kills without reason or remorse. But then it turns out that the Horta has been on this planet all along, that her species was here long before the humans showed up and began their mining operations, and that she only began attacking the humans when they began destroying her eggs. Yes, she killed, but she killed invaders to her home, and she killed to protect her children. Suddenly, she doesn't seem like such a fiend. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy all play different roles in bringing us along toward the realization. Much has been said over the decades about the different types that Kirk, Spock, and McCoy exemplify. Spock, the logical one, McCoy, the emotional one, Kirk, the mediator between the two. But they also embody more fundamental, functional types. Kirk is the leader and decision maker. Spock is the scientist and philosopher. And McCoy is the healer. All three of those types come into play when the characters relate to the Horta. Initially, Kirk is determined to find and kill the Horta, because his mission is to get this mine up and running again, and it's the Horta that is preventing that from happening. The Horta is a beast that's killing people and destroying equipment, so it's got to go. He tells Spock point blank, it's got to die. But when Kirk has his chance to kill the Horta, when he's facing her down with his gun drawn, he doesn't shoot. He watches. He notices that the Horta isn't attacking him. Even though he knows the Horta has killed dozens of people, he hesitates to shoot a creature that is posing no threat to him at the moment. The Horta is practicing forbearance, so Kirk does the same. When Kirk gets more information and learns why the Horta has been killing the miners, he immediately takes the Horta's side. It's always a stirring moment for me when I watch this episode, when the miners burst onto the scene near the end and Kirk immediately tells them not to shoot at the Horta. The first man that fires is dead, he says. He's not fucking around. Instead of trying to tame or compel the Horta to do what he wants, he attempts to win her trust. He has McCoy treat her wound. He employs Spock to communicate. He treats the Horta with sympathy and respect. When Kirk mentions that the eggs are soon to hatch and Vanderberg reacts by saying, "You mean there's about to be thousands of those things crawling around down here?" Kirk responds instantly, "This is where they live." If only all newcomers to inhabited lands were capable of comprehending the significance of that simple thought. Spock's recognition of the Horta's right to exist comes much quicker than Kirk's, though at first it is motivated by cold, scientific ethics. If the Horta is the only one of her kind, as appears to be the case before the confirmation that the silicon spheres are eggs, then it would be, as Spock says at one point, a crime against science. When Spock faces the Horta, he treats her as he would anyone else. He mind melds with the Horta, just the same as if she were a fellow Vulcan or a human, and when he feels her pain, the physical pain from her wound, and the inexpressible sorrow from the destruction of so many of her eggs, he cries not just for her, but with her. The pain of the Horta is no less valid because she is not the same kind of creature as Spock or his crewmates. McCoy at first refuses Kirk's order to treat the Horta's injury, not out of insubordination, but out of incredulity. Treat that thing? How's he supposed to do that? The Horta is a whole different form of life than they've ever encountered. But Kirk tells him, "You're a healer, there's your patient." And McCoy gets to work. And though he doesn't fully understand the Horda's anatomy or biology, he treats her like he would any human patient. He examines her. He dresses her wound. He helps her because he's a doctor, and she is a living being in need. Each of them, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, find a way to relate to the Horda through their unique roles as leader, scientist/philosopher, and healer. And they relate to her as an equal, not as a monster, but as a person. They treat her injuries, they feel her pain, they defend her rights. They all recognize, once they know enough, that they, the humans who have settled on and exploited the resources of this planet, are in the wrong, and that the Horda's acts of violence were merely the acts of someone under attack trying to protect themselves and their family. Having Kirk, Spock, and McCoy all come to their own realizations about the Horda through their own roles in the story helps to reinforce the message without being too preachy about it. The episode isn't exactly subtle, and I'm not saying it should be, but it does deliver its message without making it feel like a lecture. It's forceful and unmistakable, but it's not didactic. I suppose I could criticize the episode for having a resolution that is too neat and too satisfying for all parties involved. After sharing its deep sorrow for the destruction of so many of its eggs, the Horda seems willing to forgive and forget pretty much immediately. And the miners are all on board with the new arrangement right away. This creature that has been hunting and killing them is now going to be their ally and help them in their work, and everybody is all for it. Is the ending a little too optimistic? Sure. But it's also a microcosm of Star Trek, isn't it? That's the whole concept of this world in a nutshell. Humanity learns to put its fear of the unknown and the other aside and embrace diversity. Everyone accepts each other and works together and creates a peaceful society that benefits all the people who live there. That's what happened on Earth on the way to the 23rd century, and that's what we see happening on Janus 6. Is it a Pollyanna-ish resolution? Yeah, that's a valid criticism. But there are other elements of the episode I'd rather criticize. For example, the Horda has been attacking people on this colony for months by the time the Enterprise gets there, but Kirk and Spock are the first ones to notice the tunnels it makes? None of these miners ever saw the perfectly round shafts running straight back through the solid rock at the sites of the attacks? Seems a bit convenient to me. Also, as great a scene as it is, Spock's second mind meld with the Horda does start to drag after a certain point. I think the Horda, through Spock, tells Kirk to go through the tunnel to find the missing circulator pump twice before Kirk finally goes, and it starts to feel like the scene is being dragged out intentionally to play for time. Most of the episode is free of the pacing issues that often plague classic Star Trek episodes, but this scene definitely suffers from that problem. It's not really the point of the episode, and I made a little joke about it at the end of my plot summary, but one other thing about that happy ending is that it suggests that it's possible for the rights of an indigenous population to be respected while colonizers exploit their lands and extract their natural resources. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that can ever be true. It's only remotely plausible in this episode because apparently the only thing the Horda want is to be able to tunnel through the rocks to their heart's content, and that just so happens to perfectly coincide with the goals of the miners. Let the Horda tell the miners certain mineral-rich areas are off limits because those are sacred lands, or ask the miners for a percentage of the profits from selling those minerals and see how well everybody gets along then. Beyond those quibbles, I don't have any major problems with this episode. In addition to everything else I've said about it, the episode has that mid-20th century pulp sci-fi quality that I just can never get enough of. It wraps its message, which could not be more serious and socially relevant, in such wonderful silliness. There's even a classic light-hearted Star Trek ending stuck on after this very serious story has been wrapped up, with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy bantering and joking on the bridge. It's everything I think of when I think about Star Trek. and everything I want Star Trek to be. And what a creation the Horta is. Basically a lumpy carpet thrown over an actor who then makes it skitter around. It's ridiculous, but it works. By the end of the episode, that Horta is a character, and you care about her, and you're on her side, and you want her to be okay, and you're not thinking, oh, look how silly that is. It's a wonderful thing. The Horta creature was created and mostly portrayed by Janos Prohaska, who also portrayed costumed creatures in other Star Trek episodes, including the Mugato in A Private Little War and Yarnek in The Savage Curtain. This episode, The Devil in the Dark, was written by Gene Kuhn and directed by Joseph Pevney. And there's the answer to the question, why is it so good, right there. Written by arguably the best writer on the series, directed by arguably the best director on the series. The Devil in the Dark is simply peak Star Trek. If someone who had never seen the show before asked me why I loved it, I'd show them this episode. Because everything I love about Star Trek is there. The pulp sci-fi adventure show look and tone, the superficial silliness, the underlying earnestness, the social conscience, the characters, and the conviction that fear and violence can be overcome by empathy and tolerance. Sometimes it's about recognizing that the devil in the dark isn't a devil after all. And sometimes, and this is the one we always seem to get stuck on, it's about realizing that the real devil in the dark was us. Those are my thoughts on The Devil in the Dark. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would, if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. Please join me next time as this batch of reviews of Star Trek's wokest episodes continues. Next time, I'll take a look back at another show from Star Trek, the original series, this one from Season 3, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. See you next time for that. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.